Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the 7th episode of story in which Naruto and Shikamaru were the only survivors of the Fourth War. Kurama, seeing them fade, sent them back to the Jonan days to prevent the war. Make sure to click the like and subscribe buttons. Now let's begin. So Tsunade, do you want to do the honors of breaking the seal or do you want me to take a look at it? Minato asked curiously as the group approached the barrier holding the stunned silent group. Is that truly you, Minato? Tsunade asked, the first to break the silence. Pretty sure, Minato laughed after he checked out his limbs and hair. Oh yeah, it's him. Jiraiya smiled brightly. Did you get whiter, Jiraiya-sensei? Minato asked curiously. Brat. Jiraiya grunted fondly. Kakashi, you're all grown up. Minato grinned proudly as his eyes found his old student. If you're really back, Minato-sensei, then. Kakashi stepped forward eyeing both his sensei and best friend. I'm really here too, Kakashi. Obito Uchiha at your service. Obito snapped off a playful salute to the copy nin. Obito, I don't understand. Kakashi shook his head. Suddenly the barrier pulsed once, twice before it fell away into nothing. You guys were busy, so I figured I would get rid of the barrier, Naruto said innocently at the wide-eyed looks he was getting while Shikamaru stood nearby, making hand signs. He balanced himself on his feet before he leaned his head back, curling his fingers around his mouth as he blew out a large stream of fire into the air, and it took the form of the Uzumaki spiral. The others should be heading towards the Senju estate. We should get there as well. I'm not sure how people will take seeing an S-rank Rouge ninja and 3 dead ninjas out and about at this moment in time. Shikamaru reminded Naruto before he grunted as Ino flew at him, tackling him to the ground in a hug, tears in her eyes. You are an idiot, Ino shouted at him, hugging him tightly. Kushina took this chance and pounced on Kakashi, hugging him and pinching his cheeks, ranting about how she always knew he would grow up to be so handsome, while Obito snickered at Kakashi's expense. Don't you ever scare us like that again, Shikamaru. Shoji added in as he stood beside the downed Shikamaru. Yeah, I promise. Shikamaru hugged Ino back, rubbing her back soothingly. Need a hand? Asuma offered his hand to his student once Ino finally released him. Thanks, Asuma-sensei. Shikamaru smiled in relief as Asuma pulled him back to his feet and surprised him by then pulling him into a hug. I'm glad you're okay. Asuma breathed out, smelling like cigarette smoke and cologne. Likewise, sensei, Shikamaru said as he hugged his sensei back before he was released and his father hugged him tightly. I understand now, son. I am sorry, but I'm glad you came back, Shikaku whispered in his son's ear. Shikamaru let out a happy smile and hugged his father back, burying his face in his neck, just reveling in the fact he was there and alive. Inoiki and Chozo both ruffled Shikamaru's hair the best they could as Shikaku refused to release his hold on his son. Get over here, Naruto. Jiraiya waved Naruto over. The blonde shuffled over and stood under his godfather's all-seeing eyes. I'd like to say I'm upset, but that would be a lie, Jiraiya murmured. So, you don't hate me? Naruto asked, finding his voice small, very unlike his usual self. Hate you? Never in a million years. I want some explanations, of course, but I'm just... Jiraiya couldn't put it into words. Seeing the man Naruto was turning into, how he brought his student and his wife were back, reuniting Kakashi and Obito, Jiraiya couldn't find the right words. Proud, I'm proud. Jiraiya decided on. It wasn't all of what he wanted to express, but it was a start. Naruto's face just lit up with a beaming smile and Jiraiya found that maybe that word was perfect. You little brat. Tsunade stormed over to the two, the blonde tensing for punches at the very least. But instead the current blonde Hokage dragged the future blonde Hokage into a tight hug, stroking his hair. Never do anything so reckless again. Tsunade scolded as Naruto hugged her back. No promises, Bachan, Naruto said cheekily. Tsunade let out a choking-like laugh before releasing him. Pain bloomed over the back of his head. Naruto yelped and held onto his aching head. Ah, Sakura, why would you do that? Naruto whined, foregoing the Chan, knowing it was his pink-haired teammate without looking. You are a complete idiot. I really thought you were dead. Idiot, Sakura shouted, whacking the blonde a few more times for good measure, trying to hide the fact she looked as teary as Ino had. I'm sorry I worried you, Sakura, but I can feel that all your training with Bachan is paying off. Naruto beamed at her and she smiled back, proud at his words. The same feeling she got when Akira had praised her skills, cementing the fact that Naruto and Shikamaru were Akira and Akito. Kashini-san. Naruto leapt at his unsuspecting older brother / Jounin sensei. The copy nin staggered back under the weight of the small blonde who was attaching himself to his waist and dragging Iruka in for a group hug, not getting any complaints from either one of the older men as they hugged their little brother back. Meanwhile, Sasuke had managed to shake off the Sandaime's hand on his shoulder and he rushed towards Itachi. The S-rank missing nin looked a bit wary at his approaching brother, but all wariness disappeared when Sasuke, foregoing his "I'm better than thou" persona, threw his arms around his older brother's waist, hugging him tightly as he used to when he was a child. "Ni-san, I forgive you, just don't leave me alone anymore," Sasuke muttered loud enough for Itachi to hear. "I'm not going anywhere. If I do, I'm sure you wouldn't be opposed to coming with me." Itachi hugged his little brother back, a warm feeling he hadn't felt since he was a boy spread through his chest. "So you two are really Akira and Akito?" Tenten asked as the teams surrounded Shikamaru and Naruto once they had been released by their family members. "Yup, sorry for the deception," Naruto said, glancing at the Sandaime who was talking with Minato and Kushina. "So Shikamaru, you or Akito?" Kiba turned to the Nara who was pulling his hair up once more thanks to the spare hair Taina lent him. "That's right." Shikamaru nodded as Akamaru climbed up Naruto's body, happily nuzzling the blonde who was laughing slightly. "So that means you beat Sasuke into the ground with ease?" Kiba's grin just became larger. "I guess so." Shikamaru's lips twitched. "Oi, we better get to the meeting point, they will be wondering where we are," Naruto said, glancing at the Nara, placing Akamaru into Hinata's arms, giving her a beaming smile making her blush brightly, muttering something about her being happy Naruto was okay. "Do you really have the heart to break up this reunion?" Shikamaru asked, indicating to Itachi and Sasuke talking, Obito and Kakashi making fun of each other, while Minato and Kushina were talking with Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Hiruzen. "Yup." Naruto smirked and threw his arms up to the sides, his orange-red shirka chains flew out of him, a chain wrapping around the waist of Shikamaru, Itachi, Obito, Minato, and Kushina. "See you guys at the Senju estate once everything is back to normal." Naruto waved at the others as he floated up into the air using his Justo from the failed invasion attempt, pulling the others along with him. "Naruto!" Shikamaru roared at the blonde, annoyed. Obito and Kushina whooped happily while Minato and Itachi just sighed as they were whisked out of sight towards the Senju estate where the others were waiting, leaving the Konoha ninjas behind. "Those better be some damn good answers." Tsunade rubbed her forehead. "Just like Kushina," Jiraiya laughed cheerfully. "Can we come and hear what they have to say as well, milady?" Sakura asked her sensei hopefully. "Of course, you all deserve to get some answers as well. For the moment, however, we have to make sure the village and its citizens are alright, and we have to ship the root members off to Eon to figure out how to deprogram them." Tsunade nodded her head and the group got to work. "So I think our huge reveal went rather well," Naruto said, dropping into the shade under a large tree in the backyard of the Senju estate, Shikamaru sitting beside him with the others scattered around the yard. "It's all finally over," Shikamaru said, looking up at the blue sky through the leaves of the tree, the shadow and the sunlight casting a beautiful pattern on the two chunins below. "I never thought I would see the day, I'm just really happy." Naruto grinned, rubbing his hand across his eyes. "Me too, Nar." Shikamaru smiled widely, it setting in that they had done it. They had stopped so many horrible things from happening. Sure, they would always be conflict, but he knew that they could handle anything compared to what they had gone through. "You were right, Naruto. As soon as Konohamaru heard I was your cousin, he was very helpful and accepted us right away," Nagito reported to his cousin. "Watch out, you'll be expected to come play ninja with us now," Naruto teased. "I do not think I would mind that," Nagito admitted softly. "Welcome to Konoha, Nagito. It can become home for you, Konan and Yahiko, just say the word," Naruto promised. "Thank you, Naruto Uzumaki." Nagito bowed his head in respect and Naruto just waved it off. "Well, Shika, we have some time to kill. What do you say to a spar?" Naruto asked excitedly. "We just finished fighting and you want to fight more? I demand a nap, at the very least." Shikamaru raised his eyebrows at the blonde. "You make a valid point," Naruto said as all previous excitement was drained out of him as it hit him how exhausted he truly was. "Wake us when the others are in view." Shikamaru looked at the others before and Naruto leaned against the other and the tree behind them, and in seconds the two were fast asleep. "I think Naruto has spent too much time with Shikamaru, he's even napping like a Nara now," Kushina giggled as she brushed her son's bangs out of his face. "So you are the Yondaime Hokage then?" Hashirama walked over to Minato with an excited look that could rival Naruto's. "I am." Minato nodded at the Shodai. "We should spar. I want to see your skills." Hashirama grinned. "Sure," Minato said, always having wanted to see the Shodai in action close up. "No, you will not." Mito and Kushina both grabbed their husbands by their ears, dragging them away from the other. "You will wake the children, and if you do..." Kushina let her threat trail off while Mito glared fiercely at her husband. "Hi." Both men cowered under the fire of their wives' glares. It must be an Uzumaki thing. They are approaching. Konan reported as a flurry of paper returned to her outstretched arms, a small smile appearing on her face when she spotted Jiraiya among them. Time to wake up Naru-chan. Kushina cooed as she slowly woke Naruto up, the blonde kicking Shikamaru as he did so. The Naru grumbled annoyed, rubbing at his knee where the blonde had made contact. Keiko-san. Naruto muttered as he rubbed his eyes, making Kushina squeal at her son's adorableness. This should be fun. Shikamaru grunted as he and Naruto dragged themselves to the front of the house to meet the other group. Shika-chan. Naru-chan. I was so worried, Yoshino shouted as she dragged her boys into a tight hug. Ka-san can't breathe, Shikamaru gasped out. Yoshino released the two and looked them up and down for injuries, taking in their dirt-covered clothing and the way Shikamaru was shielding his right side. You're hurt, Shikamaru, Yoshino said, waving Tsunade over to check her son over. Cracked rib, it must have been causing you pain. Why didn't you say anything? Tsunade clicked her tongue annoyed as she moved her glowing green hand over Shikamaru's right side. What did I say about hiding wounds from Ishika? Naruto asked sweetly. Shikamaru, after Tsunade healed his rib, backed away from the blonde. We had other things to worry about. Shikamaru protested before he yelped as Naruto sent a herd of bunshines at the Nara, tackling him to the ground and shouting at how he was an idiot. Now that we've taken care of that, come meet the others, Naruto said cheerfully once his bunshines disappeared and he dragged Shikamaru behind him much to the amusement of the others. The newly arrived group walked into the backyard and froze at the sight before them. They had gotten used to the idea of Minato, Kushina, Obito and Itachi being back, but seeing Hashirama, Mito, Tobirama, Nagato, Konan and Yahiko standing there casually made their minds freeze up. There's my little granddaughter, Hashirama cried out at the sight of Tsunade. He swept her up in a tight hug. You followed in my footsteps, becoming Godime Hokage, the first lady Hokage of Konoha, and the village isn't in debt. Oh, I am so proud of you. Hashirama ranted as he rubbed his cheek against Tsunade's. Tobirama slapped his palm against his forehead at his older brother's antics. Sometimes he wondered if the two were really related. You are overwhelming the poor girl, Mito scolded her husband, extracting her granddaughter from his hold. Let me look at you, my beautiful, strong granddaughter. Grandma? Grandpa? Tsunade asked in a small voice filled with wonder. It's really us, Tsunade. Mito assured her, smoothing back her blonde bangs. Tsunade gave a small smile before she hugged her grandmother tightly. Tobirama-sensei? Hiruzen asked in shock as the Nidaime approached the Sandaime and his son. You look well, Hiruzen, I am glad. You have done a wonderful job leading this village, Tobirama said gruffly. Thank you, sensei. Hiruzen smiled, feeling odd that he was once again saying those words. You must my student's son, I am Tobirama Senju the Nidaime Hokage. Tobirama bowed his head to Asuma. It's a pleasure, Nidaime-sama, I am Asuma. Asuma bowed back in respect and awe at meeting the man of his childhood bedtime stories. Jiraiya-sensei. Nagato smiled awkwardly at the Dode-sanin who was staring at Itrio in shock. Nagato, Konan, Yahiko. I don't understand, how are you three? Jiraiya trailed off. You have an amazing student, sensei. He turned my hatred around, gave us hope, an offer of a home, and I am proud to call him my cousin, Nagato said truthfully, glancing at where Naruto was standing with Shikamaru by the other Genans who were laughing at something the blonde had said. He has a way of doing that. Jiraiya smiled fondly at his godson before he broke all composure and pulled his three previous students into a group hug and was pleased when he got hugs in return. And then Shika here decided that he was going to try a new hairstyle. Let's just say we had to run out of town fast, too. Many people of both gender liked his hair way too much. Naruto finished a story leaving the other Genin laughing, minus Sasuke who had went to be with his brother. We almost got away too, but it was those blue eyes of yours that doomed us. Shikamaru poked Naruto in the side. I can't help it if people love my baby blues. Naruto fluttered his eyes at Shikamaru who snorted. What happened? Choji asked amused at the duo. The truth was that it had happened in Suna, so Tamari and Gaara had come to their rescue, more like Tamari did. Gaara was too busy trying not to laugh. So the two improvised. A local heartthrob came around and distracted the group long enough for us to get out of there, Naruto said, and the group ahed. Naruto, I think it's time for that explanation. Minato interrupted the group, making the Genins gasp like fish at the sight of the Yondaime so close to them and actually alive. Sure thing, Tosan, Naruto said brightly. DTOU-san? The Genins screeched, drawing attention of everyone else in the yard. Yeah, Kushina Uzumaki is my Kasan and Minato Namikaze the Yondaime Hokage is my Tosan, Naruto said blankly, trying to understand what the big deal was as Minato draped his arm around his son's shoulder, pulling him into his side, smiling kindly at the stunned Shinon. I'm starting to think you will never stop surprising me, Naruto. Sakura rubbed her forehead. Oh Sakura, I'm just getting started. Naruto grinned. Do we finally get our explanations? Obito asked as he dragged Kakashi and Iruka, who Obito had taken a liking to once he saw how Kakashi was around the Chunin, over to his sensei and his sensei's kid. Hi Obito, we will tell you everything you want to know. Shikamaru nodded his head. Let's head inside, there could still be Danzo supporters around. Tsunade ordered and the large group headed into the estate, Mito falling into the role of hostess, as it was her home. She gracefully led the group to the largest and most comfortable room they had. Naruto and Shikamaru grabbed a two-seat couch at the far end of the room where there were no windows and could see every angle of the room. Hashirama and Tobirama exchanged looks. That couch was the most strategically sound place in the room and usually where the two brothers sat. When everyone had found a seat in their desired seating arrangements, all eyes turned to the two Chunins. Naruto looked around the room and any happy or goofy look he had before draining away in an instant as Shikamaru's face took an emotionless state much like an Anbu. All your questions can be answered in 3 words, Naruto said grimly, shaking his head a bit as the dead forms of everyone in the room flashed over their present forms. They had never all been in the same room at once and he couldn't stop his memories completely. We're time travelers. Shikamaru deadpanned to the silent room. Some showed understanding as things clicked into place while others showed disbelief. That confirms my theory, Shikaku sighed out while Minato nodded along, already having heard the truth from his son and Shikamaru previously. You cannot expect us to believe this. Kiba sputtered. Akamaru nipped harshly at his partner's fingers before he leapt up onto the couch and settled on Shikamaru's lap. Shikamaru gave a smile and petted Akamaru the way he liked to be petted. It's much easier to pet you when you're this small. When you became bigger than Kiba it was more difficult. Shikamaru laughed and Kiba's mouth opened and shut, trying to imagine that. Finally something that makes sense. Obito nodded his head, crossing his arms. It would explain why you two are so powerful. Hashirama nodded, gaining a proud look from the Chunin's parents and senseis. The others just looked at the 12-year-olds who were playing with Akamaru. The Shodai Hokage said those two were so powerful. It also explains how you knew exactly what Madara Uchiha, Zetsu and Kaguya were planning and how to counter them before it turned into a full-out war that would involve the 5 nations. I am correct to assume that is what happened in your future? Tobirama theorized, crossing his arms. Shikamaru nodded gravely. Madara Uchiha. The Sandaime's head snapped to the side. Zetsu, as in the Akatsuki member? Jiraiya stared at Naruto with worry. Believe it or not, Zetsu was the true brains behind the Akatsuki. He is annoying as the white half of him can make millions bunshines of himself, but his plan was deadly the first time around, Naruto said as he raised his hand, Akamaru barking a bit as he jumped up at the limb. Wait. What about the other members of the Akatsuki? Jiraiya waved his hands as he looked at Nagato, Konan, Yahiko, and Itachi. Let's see, Kisame didn't want anything to do with our battle, so he left to roam for a while until he comes to annoy Itachi, Naruto said after a moment of thought. Itachi scowled at the reminder. I took out Hidan, Shikamaru said, pleased at the memory. Hidan, the immortal Hidan? Jiraiya was looking at Shikamaru with more respect while Shikamaru's parents and team looked worried at the Dodsanin's words. That's the one. I immobilized him and sealed him in a scroll. Shikamaru cut in before any more questions about the bastard were asked. Gaara got Datara and Sasori, he was far too pleased about that. Naruto chuckled at the stunned looks on Jiraiya and Tsunade's faces. Oh, right. Gaara and all the other Jinchurikis are time travelers as well. Well, not the same way we are. When I fixed each of their seals, Kurama's chakra merged with theirs so their memories and abilities returned. I have to say having our god Namikaze Kage back helped move things along, Naruto said casually. Gaara is going to be god Namikaze Kage? Lee asked, amazed at the fact he fought a future Kage. They are a force to be reckoned with when together. Tobirama muttered. Then once we got Nagato and Konan on our side, we hunted down Kakuzu, with them holding him in place. Shikamaru and I sent 2 high-powered Rasengans at him, destroying all 5 of his hearts before he could detach them, Naruto said smugly. You can both do Rasengans? Minato asked, surprised. Naruto lost a bet and taught me the Rasengan, Shikamaru said with a smirk. Hey, I mastered mine in a week. You took a month. Naruto poked Shikamaru in the side. All users of the Rasengan's mouths dropped. It only took him a week to learn it? Yeah, but to add my cage it didn't take nearly as long as it did when you were adding in your futon. Shikamaru shot back with a smirk and more stares were given to the two. You perfected it. Minato's face lit up with a grin, he knew his son could do what he couldn't. I do believe they need a demonstration, Naruto said, eyeing the disbelieving looks. Troublesome. Cage, Rasengan. Shikamaru held his right hand out, bracing his wrist with his left hand while Naruto held up his right palm simply. Futon, Rasen Shuriken. Naruto beamed as a high-pitched keening appeared as a small Rasen Shuriken appeared in his palm while blue churka and black shadows swirled around in Shikamaru's right palm. Trust us, this time around the Akatsuki didn't stand a chance, Naruto said smugly as he and Shikamaru let their jutsu disappear. Then what happened last time? Neji asked cautiously. There was a lot of death and destruction, Naruto said simply, not willing to say much more. What else happened? Kurenai asked softly. It's better if you all don't know the details of the war and how people died. Shikamaru shook his head. In other words, he and Naruto were unsure if they could handle reliving the war. It was officially a different future and should have no effect on the future they were heading towards now. That future has been averted. All we did was bring back the previous Hokages, like what happened in our timeline with the Edo Tensei. This Hinigami himself granted are just a success, did some convincing and made genius plans. All in all, I'd say that was a damn good training trip, Naruto said smugly. Speaking of, Akira and Akito Kazama. Explain. Now, Tsunade threatened the two, cracking her fists. Basically, when we said we had seer blood, we were in truth talking about our future and what happened then, Naruto said, glancing at the Sun Daime with sad eyes. So in your future I was killed by Orochimaru during the invasion and... Hiruzen trailed off. 3 years from then the Fourth Shinobi War began. It razed the 5 nations to the ground, everyone everywhere were destroyed. There was nothing left, Shikamaru said simply as everyone wincing at his words. Why do I have the feeling what you two told us what happened with Orochimaru in the Forest of Death wasn't completely accurate? Asuma raised his eyebrows at the two. We just omitted some parts you didn't need to know about at the time. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. For example, the reason Orochimaru had a mismatched arm was because Naruto tore the other one off, Shikamaru said proudly. Don't sell yourself short, Shika. You killed Kabuto, taking out one of the strongest yet annoying players in the war. No Kabuto equals no Masato Tensei, Naruto said just as proudly while Jiraiya blanched at the mention of a Masato Tensei. Killing him did feel amazing. Shikamaru admitted to everyone's shock. What did he do that was so horrible? Yoshino asked her son, working past her shock of her son taking pleasure in killing someone. Imagine all your previously dead allies and enemies coming back to life, no control over their actions but still conscious, only able to watch as they attack and kill their loved ones. While their loved ones have to struggle to take them down, Naruto said with no emotion while Shikamaru gritted his teeth and subconsciously rubbed the wound that was killing him in the previous timeline that he received from the reanimated Choji. That bastard, Yoshino hissed in anger as others agreed with her and the Jinan went pale white at the mere words. Basically why I killed in the forest. Shikamaru nodded his head. So let me get this straight, you two were the only survivors of the Fourth Shinobi War in all of the 5 nations. I'm assuming the Nine Tails did a space-time jutsu to bring you two back to your Jinan days where you proceeded to make plans to stop deaths and bring about a brighter, more or less future? Tsunade asked in awe. That sounds right, Bachan. Naruto nodded his head after a moment of thought. Then you went on to use the Edo Tensei to bring back the Shodai, his wife, the Nidaime, the Ondaime, his wife and Yahiko's soul back to his body after convincing 3 previous Akatsuki members to join your cause while becoming Chunins, taking out Orochimaru and Kabuto along with destroying the rest of the Akatsuki and bringing all 9 Jinchurikis together? Only then you decided to use your aliases that you used to save the Sun Daime and the village to leave said village to gather all previously mentioned allies together so you can go fight a battle to stop an upcoming war while keeping everything a secret from all of us. Jiraiya summed up once more. Well, when you put it like that it sounds kind of impressive, but yeah, basically. Shikamaru mused. Just how much have you been holding back in training, Naruto-chan? Kakashi eyed his little brother in shock. Okashi ni-san, if I went full out against you, you wouldn't last a minute, Naruto laughed cheerfully. Understatement. Hashirama muttered much to the room's amazement. I think we deserve to hear your ranks at the very least, Shikaku stated looking at his son and the blonde he now saw as part of his clan. Shikamaru Nara, the last of the Nara clan, chief strategist for the allied shinobi forces, personal advisor to the Rokudaime Hokage and commander of the allied shinobi forces Onbu squads. I am higher than elite jounin, but below Kage, Shikamaru said strongly, gaining gasps from the room. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the last of both my clans. Rakudime Hokage, leader of the allied shinobi forces, Seal Master, Toad Sage and Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Shikamaru said that I'm officially ranked as a Kage, but my power's on a completely different and higher level than Kage, Naruto said just as strongly, getting most gasps from the room. Damn, that sounds cool, Naruto laughed and Shikamaru rolled his eyes fondly at the blonde. That's because you are cool, remember? Guy and Lee said so at your coronation. Shikamaru reminded the blonde while the mentioned ninja perked up at their names. Oh yeah, they managed to drag Neji and Tenten into dancing with them. It made my night, Naruto laughed while Neji and Tenten looked horrified at the mere idea of doing so. Any other questions, or can Shika and I go sleep? Saving the future is exhausting and it's only now sinking in that we have stopped our future from happening. Naruto spoke honestly as he stood up, stretching his arms before he dragged the Nara up off the couch, pretending he didn't hear the whine he was getting. Go rest, we'll wake you two up for dinner. Kushina promised, dropping a kiss to Naruto's forehead while Yoshino did the same for Shikamaru, neither of them backing away embarrassed like normal kids their age would. The two stumbled out of the room, pushing at each other playfully, leaving a room full of stunned people behind them. Naruto dragged Shikamaru into his room and the two without a word got into more comfortable sleep clothes and curled up on the large bed, the other's presence soothing, and before long they fell asleep to the other's chirka feeling and the numerous chirka sources below the floor. Kakashi dear, go wake up your Toto. Kushina called sweetly to the Jounin who was sitting with the Iruka and the other Jounins, introducing Obito to them once again. Kakashi just stood up, brushing his pants off, as he knew better than to disobey Kushina when she used that sweet tone of voice even after all this time. If it's anything like the last time we had to wake them, I'll come too. Asuma spoke up, following Kakashi up the stairs, passing Sasuke and Itachi who were sitting by Tsunade as the Godime took a look at the old Uchiha's eyes as he had an illness thanks to overuse of his Sharingan. The two Jounins entered Naruto's room to see both time travelers fast asleep, curled towards each other, peaceful looks on their faces like all the weight of the world had finally lifted off their shoulders, and in a way it had been. I don't want to wake them, but they need to eat. Asuma muttered to Kakashi, who nodded his agreement. Kakashi and Asuma went to their students' sides and gently woke the two up, wary of their battle reflexes that they now knew the two possessed. What? Naruto asked groggily as he rubbed his eyes as he sat up, the shoulder of his green shirt slipping down his arm, overall looking adorable and very young. It's time to eat, Naru-chan. Kakashi gave an eye smile. I'm Kakashi-ni-san. Naruto suddenly was a blur as he jumped onto Kakashi's back, making his sensei give him a piggyback. Onwards, ni-san, Naruto said cheerfully. Once you mention food it's all over, Shikamaru said knowingly. You don't need a piggyback ride, do you? Asuma raised an eyebrow. Nah, I could use a cigarette though, Shikamaru said honestly as he slid out of the bed. What? Asuma asked in shock. I thought you hated smoking? The smoke always gets in my eyes and Kurenai always gets on my case whenever she catches me. Shikamaru grumbled as he stumbled out of the room, his sensei by his side. As she should, it's a horrible habit, more so for someone so young. Asuma lectured. I understand why you smoke now. Shikamaru glanced at his sensei with a sad smile, and it struck Asuma how old Shikamaru's eyes looked. Promise me you won't take it up this time. Asuma stopped Shikamaru before they went down the stairs. I don't have a reason to this time. Shikamaru promised. Just don't die on me. Shikamaru brushed past Asuma and headed down the stairs, leaving his sensei stunned. He was the reason why Shikamaru had started to smoke, it must have hit him extremely hard. He shook his head and mentally promised Shikamaru that he wouldn't die anytime soon. Ooh, I have missed this. Naruto inhaled his plate of food that Yoshino had made for the large group with the help of Kushina, Mito, Choji, Choza, Minato, Hinata and Konan, who asked to be taught, who in turn had dragged Nagato and Yahiko with her. How are your training with Bachan and Gigi going? Naruto asked Sakura and Sasuke between bites of food. I'm really improving in my taijutsu and chirka control, I can make a crack in the ground when I punch now. Sakura told Naruto excitedly. You'll have to fight me if you want to know how my training is going, Dobe. Sasuke smirked, less arrogant as he had been. I'll take it easy on you, team. Naruto smirked back, the air of rivalry appearing between the two, this time however it more friendly than before. So when you two were Akira and Akito and you were training us, the reason you knew exactly what we needed to work on was because you knew us in the future. Shino turned to Shikamaru and Naruto, who were helping themselves to seconds. Basically, Shikamaru witnessed the processes because I was gone from the village for about 3 years traveling and training with Uro-Sennin, but I think I know more than he does now." Naruto laughed at the offended look he was getting from his godfather. "I doubt that." Jiraiya snorted. "I don't." Naruto smirked as orange-red markings appeared over his eyelids, his pupils changing. "Perfect Sage Mode. Brat." Jiraiya blinked in shock at the ease Naruto slipped into Sage Mode as Naruto let it fade away and he dug back into his food with gusto. "Speaking of, Shika, we are sparing after this. I don't care if you want a nap or not." Naruto pointed his chopsticks at the Nara, who looked up from his food with a glint in his eyes. "You're on Hokage-sama, try not to be too upset when you lose." Shikamaru smirked and ducked the dumpling that Naruto sent flying at his friend's head. "Taijutsu only to start with." Naruto set the rules and Shikamaru nodded in agreement not to use any weapons or other jutsus. "This I've got to see," Kiba said excitedly, while Lee and Guy looked very interested in the idea of seeing the two time travelers battle in taijutsu. "That was amazing. Thank you so much." Naruto bowed his head at the people who made the food, patting his stomach happily. "It had been far too long since we've had a home-cooked meal." Shikamaru added in also bowing his head. "It was our pleasure." Yoshino assured her boys while Kushina nodded her head in agreement. "Time to spar." Naruto sang happily as he grabbed Shikamaru by the collar and dragged him out into the backyard, the others following amused and intrigued at the fight the two were going to have. The two bowed their heads after they stretched out their muscles and dropped into a stance that strongly resembled both Guy and Lee's Taijutsu stance on the Hyuga Gentle Fist. At a silent signal, Naruto launched himself at Shikamaru, completely focused on the fight. "Konoha Senpu." "Konoha Whirlwind," Naruto shouted as he slammed his leg down. Shikamaru performed a couple backward cartwheels and a handspring, so he landed on a nearby tree branch to avoid the powerful kick from the blonde that left a large indent where he had been previous standing. "That are Konoha Senpu, Guy-sensei," Lee gasped at the blonde while Guy raised his large eyebrows in wonder. Naruto snapped his head upwards and leapt out of the dent while Shikamaru pushed himself off the tree and threw a couple Jukenpo palm thrusts towards the blonde, who ducked and dodged out of the way, making Shikamaru's palms hit a tree trunk. The trunk shattered on impact. Shikamaru spun around and launched a basic roundhouse kick at Naruto. The blonde crossed his arms to block, but he still was forced backwards from the power of the kick. "Neji Nisan, isn't Shikamaru-kun using the Hyuga Jukenpo?" Hinata asked loud enough for others to hear. Her relationship with her cousin had been mended and now they were more along the lines of brother and sister. "Hi, it closely resembles it, but the way they move and strike are different." "More effective," Neji said, his Byakugan up so he could study their movements more closely. The Nara and Uzumaki Namikaze got into close combat as they struck at the other relentlessly, before they suddenly leapt away from the other, not breathing heavily at all. "Good to know we haven't lost our touch. Neji and Lee would have kicked our asses if we forgot all they taught us." Naruto laughed as he wiped some sweat off his forehead. "What do you mean we taught you that?" Lee asked from the sidelines. "In the war, no one cared about whose techniques belonged to what clan any longer. If it could help you get stronger, you learned it as fast as you could. Besides..." Shikamaru trailed off, catching himself before he could say any more. "Besides what?" Neji pressed. "After Guy died in battle, Lee taught us all his taijutsu style in order to let Guy's legacy live on. Hinata and Neji did the same when Madara Uchiha wiped out their clan along with the rest of the village survivors," Naruto said emotionlessly, deciding not to mention that Kabuto then reanimated Guy and forced him to fight against his students, killing Tenten before Lee could seal him. "When we said we were the only survivors, we were not kidding. If you don't want to know the answer to something, then don't ask. You'll go crazy dwelling on something that did not happen to you," Shikamaru advised before he turned back to Naruto, who tilted his head to the side. Both nodded and they knew the rules had changed. Shikamaru brought out his trench knives while Naruto pulled out Raijin. Guy, Lee, Hinata and Neji all swallowed hard but tried their best to focus on the fight to follow Shikamaru's suggestion. Asuma and Tenten looked on, more interested now that weapons were being used. Asuma was interested in how well Shikamaru could actually handle the trench knives, and an idea as to why Shikamaru taught himself to use them crossed into his mind. Shikamaru must have learned how to use them after he died in way to honor him. The blades clashed against each other, sending sparks flying everywhere as the two pressed back against the other. Naruto's Raijin started to come alive with ration and he managed to push Shikamaru backwards. "Who can play that game, Nar? Let's see whose ration is stronger," Shikamaru shouted as his trench knives came alive with his own ration, pushing Naruto backwards so they were back to their original spot. Waves of ration churka pulsed over the backyard, sending some of the Jonin skating backwards, their senseis or parents reaching out to steady them while they kept their eyes trained on the fight before them. The Hokages and Sanins nodded their heads impressed at the power behind the two time travelers in front of them. Naruto lashed out suddenly with his right leg while Shikamaru did the same with his left. They made contact as their blades left the others and the two leapt back eyeing the other. That was great. Naruto burst out laughing and Shikamaru grinned as well as the two placed their weapons back in their rightful places. How come all our spars always end in ties? Shikamaru asked as they walked over to the group. Must be because we know each other's moves too well. Naruto suggested. Oh no! Shika! Naruto suddenly stopped. Shikamaru jerked to a halt and looked back at the horror-struck Naruto concerned. What? Shikamaru asked, his eyes darting around looking for threats as his body unconsciously dropped into a defensive stance. We didn't plan for this, Naruto said, eyes widening in fear. We didn't plan for Danzo to take over the village. But that's what happened and we dealt with it easy enough. What's wrong? Shikamaru said, hand going to the hilt of his katana. We have to go through it again. Naruto moaned, dropping to his knees. What's wrong, Naruto? Minato asked, worried as he stepped towards his son, his own senses open. Shika, we have to go through puberty again, Naruto cried out in horror. Shikamaru blinked once before he too fell to his knees and everyone watching had their mouths open in shock. This was what the two were freaking out about? I don't think I can handle Ino and Sakura's mood swings again. Shikamaru buried his face in his hands. Oi! Ino and Sakura shouted, offended. Oh shit, I was spared that. But then, the fangirls appeared. Naruto shuddered, the Uchihas and Kakashi both shuddered, understanding Naruto's fear of fangirls. That's what happens when you train 24/7 and then go from 4 feet to 6 feet. Shikamaru snorted at the blonde who was looking at his 12-year-old body annoyed. I don't think I can stand my voice cracking again, Naruto cried out in distress as Shikamaru stood up, dusting off his knees before he whacked the blonde upside the head. Don't freak me out like that again, you idiot, Shikamaru scolded before he shoved his hands into his pants pockets and shuffled inside only to flop face down onto the closet couch. Yeah, Naruto agreed as he followed the Nara inside, falling onto the end of another couch, tipping his head backwards. What are you two going to do now? Tsunade asked the two as the others joined them inside the house. Huh? Didn't really think about that. To be completely honest, we weren't sure we were even going to live through the battle with Madara, Zetsu and Kaguya this time around, so we didn't plan too far in advance. Naruto rubbed his chin, not noticing the dark mood that covered the others in the room at his words. We have some basic ideas on how we want to merge all the nations once again to become the allied shinobi forces, but that will take time and patience. Also, there is the fact we have to come up with a good reason as to why previous dead ninjas and a missing nin are back in the village without causing an uproar, and then there is the council and the Hyuga clan's curse seal. Shikamaru trailed off as he pushed himself up so he was lying on his back instead of his face. Basic ideas, huh? Shikaku smiled at his son while the two Hyugas stared in hope and wonder at the two time travelers who wanted to help deal with their clan's curse seal. Or we could sit back and let Bachan and the others deal with that, after I'm not Hokage anymore. Oh, and Bachan. One word in regards to paperwork. Bunshines. Naruto suggested smugly. All the Hokages in the room stared at the smug blonde before they started to grumble and mutter. Of course, why didn't I think of that? Minato grumbled. There, dear. Mito was biting back a smile as she patted the Shodai's arm as the first Hokage was grumbling to himself. I think that's a great idea, Nar, Shikamaru agreed, crossing his arms behind his head to give himself a pillow of sorts. I've had enough planning and fighting to last me a lifetime. This coming from a Nara, I'm worried, Shika. You live for making plans to outsmart your opponents, Naruto teased. True, and as you have yet to beat me at shogi, I can't stop using my brain just yet, Shikamaru teased. I was close last time. Naruto protested. Whatever you say, Nar. Shikamaru smirked. Oh, I've been wondering, why can I use Sage Mode now? I mean, when we first came back we were lacking Churka control. Naruto stopped as Shikamaru snorted loudly. Lacking? Nar, we had shit control. You tried to walk up the side of a tree and once your foot touched it, the trunk broke in half. Shikamaru reminded the Uzumaki Namikaze. Team 7 blinked at the words. They had been there when Naruto had learned how to walk up the side of a tree with Churka. He and Sasuke were up all night trying to do it, and now Naruto could barely touch the side of a tree without it breaking. Don't remind me. Naruto covered his eyes with his hand. Tried to make 10 bunshines, ending up making about 100. He muttered, annoyed at the lack of control he had back then. The Sandaime and Iruka blinked at that. They both had seen Naruto when he first created his Cage Bunshines, and that was when he had control. How much churka did the blonde really have? Back to my point. I wasn't able to even attempt Sage mode until I was 16, and I tried a lot when we first came back, but my body couldn't hold it. Now I can hold it. I don't understand how that's possible, Naruto continued on. Maybe it has something to do with that Uzumaki henge we performed before we went to gather everyone. Shikamaru suggested, gesturing at the people they had gathered before they fought the battle against Madara, Zetsu, and Kaguya. Maybe. I have a feeling I'm going to have to visit Mount Myaboku soon. Naruto rubbed his neck with both hands as he thought. Careful what you wish for, they might reverse summon you, Shikamaru teased. The same goes for you, Shika, they haven't seen you in a while either. Naruto shot back with a smirk. Oh, you mean the giant battle deer you summoned during the battle? Obito asked, sounding excited as he remembered the beautiful and dangerous doe that fought alongside them. That was Kosetsu Snowfall. She is the chief from the Shedo Shikai Ichizoku, Shade Deer Clan. Shikamaru smiled, thinking of the chief deer and his katana. The Shedo Shikai Ichizoku? Shikaku asked curiously, edging closer to his son's side. Yeah, during the war I wanted some time to myself and came across a rundown shrine in the forest. I found the contract hidden within, signed it seeing as all the previous names were all Nara's. I proved myself worthy and received Kage no Ichi, Shadow's Edge. Shikamaru explained, his father nodding along as he planned to discuss this further with his son later once everything had settled down. We will take care of everything else, you two have done so much for us without anyone knowing it. You two deserve to have a childhood and not worry about what the future holds. Tsunade told her nephew and the Nara. Bachan, that means a lot. Naruto grinned at the blonde, fingers twirling the Shodai's necklace out of habit, the churka within the stone soothing him like it always had. Here, this will come in handy. Shikamaru pulled out a scroll, tossing it to the Godime Hokage. She caught it and silently unrolled it, and her eyes widened. These are all your ideas, they are pretty detailed too. Tsunade handed the scroll over to the other Hokages, who looked rather impressed. Like Naruto said, we weren't sure if we were going to survive the battle, so we decided to write all our ideas for the future we wanted to create in case something happened. Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders. This will be a major help, things should go much smoother with this information and your ideas, Tsunade said, her voice full of gratitude. Shikamaru nodded at the Godime before he stood up, stretching his arms out. I'm going to go cloud watch, it's been ages since I've been able to do it properly. Shikamaru announced. I'm going to drag Kurama out for a spar, Naruto said cheerfully as he stood up off his couch. The two wandered out to the backyard. Shikamaru easily leapt up onto a thick tree branch and laid himself down so he was looking up at the blue, cloudy sky between the green leaves. Naruto slammed his bloodied hand against the ground by his feet and a 7-foot Kurama appeared. At least I'm not the size of a cat this time. Kurama grumbled. You would be no fun to fight against if you were that small. Naruto pointed out before he launched himself at the Ninetales, laughing with a carefree smile on his face. The future is in good hands. Minato smiled as he watched his son spar with the tailed beast, the other Genons inching closer to watch the fight interested. Minato smiled wider when his son dragged the others into the fight, all of them ganging up on Kurama, and they were working well together and had Kurama on the ropes much to the Ninetales' annoyance. Very good hands indeed. Minato muttered to himself as he turned to where the others were discussing plans based off of the scroll Shikamaru gave Tsunade. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.